Hello friends, welcome to my patch analysis for 7.3, where I basically go over the patch 7.3, well, not the patch 7.3 patch notes, but my rundown of the patch 7.3 patch notes. So Camille honestly has just a completely overloaded kit upon release. I'm really surprised that they didn't have any follow-up hotfix to the one they initially put out following her release, because she's supposed to be like a high damage lane bully, but then she just does a completely absurd amount of damage while still being really mobile. So they've straight up just given her trims all across the board here with nerfs to all of her abilities. If we start off with her Q, so her true damage Sheen proc, I think that Riot wants to keep that, but it's kind of overpowered right now for sure. So their way of tackling it right now is to just kind of nerf the actual bonus damage the Q does. I think that her W's slow was completely busted. 90% is really strong. And I get that the intention is to make it so that like you go in and you trade, and then as you're on your way out, you land your W so that they can't really follow up onto you. But like, this is kind of creating a situation where like kind of trading in lane, she can do that. She can get the slow off, but like people can't really approach her as effective as they should be able to, on top of the fact that she's got like, you know, her passive shield, right? So that's pretty bogus. I'm really glad that they nerfed it. The fact it fully decays now is a pretty good step. For her hook shot, I'm surprised that they didn't touch the actual range of it, at least when she's jumping towards an enemy champion. Like, I've just seen Camille's jump like 2/3 of a screen towards their target with the LCS camera like panned out beyond like the normal max zoom that you would otherwise have just in game. I've tried researching the actual value of it, but all I got was the initial cast of 800 units, which doesn't really help at all. And this ultimate change makes sense down here. It now disappears within 1 second of Camille dying, so that makes sense. If she's not alive, her ultimate shouldn't stay there. Like, it's not like a Jarvan ult where like people can like even a Vayne can tumble out of it, right? But like you can't even flash out of this one. So like, imagine like Camille is literally about to go down, and then like right before she goes down, she ults someone, and then that person is still like effectively CC'd for like another, I don't know, however long her ult stays up there, and she's still controlling you beyond death. So that's pretty lame. So for Jace here, so basically, the way you want to play Jace is to poke them down and then jump in to execute them once they have low enough HP. So this change basically makes hammer form just a little less powerful. So say you land poke a couple times, and then your enemy regens a little bit of HP before you go in. Otherwise, you may have been able to get that kill, but now you either have to have some sort of good flash outplay ready, or really just dive in once that second poke lands. Those aren't actual numbers. It's not like you always have to poke twice and then go in, but that is kind of rough numbers I'm throwing out there. So this is just kind of less damage overall, but the mana cost nerf on his Thundering Blow means that trading with his hammer is a tad bit more punishing. So you really got to commit there. They actually wanted to nerf the mana cost to his acceleration gate. So nerf the actual poke. But now they're saying, okay, no, we're going to nerf when you actually go in. As for Vi, these are just some small changes to Vi. Riot's rationale is that she doesn't have to be as fast as she currently is when she's got 2 gap closers, and she doesn't quite need as much attack speed when she's got 2 auto attack resets on like her E, which I think is pretty fair, though this is more of a change directed towards solo queue. She's got a high win rate in Diamond right now, and she actually hasn't been picked up in competitive at all as far as NA, EU, and Korea are concerned. See what our second page here. So Ivern, this change was basically intended so that Ivern can't just send Daisy out, use a bunch of the enemy team's resources, and then have her come back, then have her regen, and then go in and do the same thing again. I think this is a pretty fair change. If you damage a pet, the damage should stick, especially since Daisy like also offers hard crowd control. I think Daisy is the only CC that like has hard crowd control if you exclude like Annie's stun with Tibbers. For kha'zix, I don't think these are ridiculously huge changes. One of the biggest reasons you pick kha'zix right now especially in competitive play, is because his evolved Q allows him to take solo camps really quickly. So red buff, blue buff, dragon, Baron, Rift Herald, Gromp isn't as important, and Scuttle Crab really quickly. So that's something being abused by professional teams right now. But this is also good because not only is this going to nerf his objective taking with this cooldown refund, but so they're nerfing that. Enemy junglers and enemy teams have slightly more time to react to kha'zix if he jumps in on a neutral objective. But it will be a little bit harder for kha'zix to kill someone now. So if an assassin is supposed to be able to 1v1 you if you're a squishy. Like if you're out of position and a kha'zix or any assassin jumps on you, you kind of deserve to die there. But there's still supposed to be, at the very least, some room for you to fight back and deal damage. So this change kind of promotes that a little bit. So that's pretty good. For LeBlanc, these changes are good for LeBlanc's overpowered early game. Honestly, she simply just clears waves and does too much damage. That's really about as simple as it is. It'll just take a little bit longer for her to ramp up to the point where she can just delete squishies as easily as she used to. So for Malzahar, I actually don't know too much about Malzahar, other than he's really annoying in lane. And according to Riot's patch notes, the sacrifices Malzahar has to make in terms of, kind of wave management and stuff, is completely lost when he's in the duo lane. So he can start focusing on just being really annoying. These changes basically give his opponents more time to react whenever Malzahar starts spawning his voidlings. So once they see him channeling up, they can make their decision in a much more timely manner, instead of just staying away from him. Those nerfs, actually, I'll mention this again with Zyra, but basically, if the more nerfs we see, because Zyra also got nerfed, so if we see more nerfs to Zyra and Malzahar, then the more likely support Misfortune is going to fall off because she's really just used as a counter pick there. So those are three power support picks that are going to disappear from pro play, and that's actually going to really shift the support game over there. If we see like a rise in maybe tank supports, we might see more Sivir or something like that. We might see some AD carries just change in general based on their corresponding lane partners, but we'll just have to see there. I don't know too much about AD carry at the moment. So for Rengar, so what these changes do is make it so that Rengar has a smaller window of opportunity to jump in, but also makes the tactic of, okay, Rengar has ulted, let's all stand on our AD carry, much more viable now because they can actually CC him. So they're also tackling the stealth duration, because he can just kind of turn it on and sit for half a minute late game and just kind of scare the opponent to like make them anxious of like, okay, Rengar's somewhere here, like he could be literally any direction right now. So this isn't quite necessarily going to that's not really going to slide anymore. So at least not to the extent of 30 seconds at rank 3. He's also definitely going to feel this at rank 2, though at rank 1 it isn't the biggest difference, 14 to 12. Tristana, I would say this is, an alright change. Tristan isn't really picked right now. This will give her 2 more seconds of some free stats. Not too much to say about it. So Zyra here. So this change is actually really good in a sense that Zyra can no longer deal damage with her plants for a pretty absurd distance away from you. Like a max range Q. So you have like the small, like this much. Say this is Zyra's Q. This is how much damage it does. But it will proc all of the nearby plants and kind of this AoE. So that's kind of how that works. So max range Q is isn't really going to have a plant like a range plant automatically hit you anymore. So just imagine you're not even really that close to the lane, but Zyra hits that Q, starts attacking you. Like, that's not fun, right? So this drastically reduces a fair amount of pressure and rewards her opponents for, kind of dodging her snare at the same time. Now I really want to know how the support champs are going to look once 7.3 hits. At the very least, the competitive scene. So I'm tired of seeing Zyra Mal's MF all the time. So for Vladimir here, so this is a change where Riot are actually making the champion just a little bit easier to play. This is going to make last hitting easier. He's for the most part a mechanically demanding champion, but success on Vlad means you have your timing, like you got to get the timing really right. I'm very curious to see how this will affect pro play though, because Vladimir has always been, whenever he's strong in competitive play, he's really strong. So looking forward to see how that does. I think the only real important change here would be the practice tool. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but that once practice tool can be done in a multiplayer sense, that will be game changing, massively game changing. LCS teams are going to have ridiculously better team fights, especially late game. This might mean that we might stop seeing constant meta champions that just follow the game's minute by minute power spikes the best, and might start seeing a wider variety of champions, since it will be easier to practice any champ or team composition at any stage of the game. Vanderil videos will be much better for sure, for him definitely. Until then, I don't really see much reason to use the practice tool unless you are a jungler or want to practice, last hitting or flash, or if you work for like surrender at 20.net and you're showcasing the new additions. Yeah, that's all I've really got for our patch analysis. Thanks for sticking around. I will see you guys in the future with some more League of Legends content.